Welcome to our global audience. We are so pleased that you are investing in yourself. Each one of these shows is completely crafted for you to be able to take some tools, take some tips and techniques, and apply them to your life. And if you are a leader, and I believe that in my bones, and that's why you have found us, that's why you've connected, why we've connected. And one of the reasons that I know that you are a leader is because you are somebody who is taking leadership in your own life. I just want to take a quick moment here to thank our paid sponsors, Glass Arts Collective, for ReikiClaremont.com, and from Stressed to Best. And in our conversation today with Jeff and Catherine Pearson, we're going to be talking about ICU. We're going to be talking about this beautiful invisible condition university. And we just want to say welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate
it.
This is awesome.
Absolutely. It's so good. And Jeff, you are also a host on E360 TV. And Jeff, how did that happen? How did you get into that place? Because that's going to propel us into the story about the invisible, I can say this today, Invisible Condition University, ICU.
Who knew that was a tongue twister, right?
I know.
So yeah, we were at a business conference a couple of years ago promoting our nonprofit, and we met Julianne, who is amazing, as you well know, and is our network president. And I think she just got a promotion recently, so she's doing all kinds of stuff now. But we met her, and she was introduced to us, and the person that introduced us said, "You've got to talk to her. You have a story, and it needs to get out there." And when it's your story, sometimes it's not always like, "Oh yeah, listen to me, everybody." Because when you live with it your whole life, you don't think it's a story, But so we started talking to Julianne, and anytime you tell somebody that you've had 7 brain surgeries, their ears perk up and they listen a little closer and they go, "Wait, what? Excuse me?" So we talked to her a little bit and told her the story, and she said, "Wow, that's pretty cool. Let's talk about maybe approaching the idea of you doing a TV show." And of course, that took a little bit of talking because I had no idea what I would talk about on a TV show. Come on, it's just me. So we came up with Invisible Condition University, and because I knew I didn't want to focus on my condition alone. Right? Invisible Condition. I'm sorry. I'm so used to saying Invisible Condition University. That's our new thing. Yeah. So Invisible Condition is the name of the show. And I knew I didn't want to focus on my particular condition the whole time. I was born with Hydrocephalus, which is a very, very common condition, but we didn't want to talk about it all the time. So Invisible Condition seemed to encompass enough that it was like, okay, now we've got a subject that can roll, long term with a show. So
yes.
Yeah.
So Catherine, how did you guys then decide that you were ready for this ICU, the Invisible Condition University? I know that in the midst of this, that you guys were pulling people together for a weekend and having conversations and trainings and encouraging times. How did having the show then move into this space of opening up ICU?
Yeah, so we have, Jeff has been on the air for about a year and a half, doing shows twice a week. So, and he has met incredible people, incredible guests that have come on, that have shared their story, that have shared their insights into what's worked for them, what could possibly work for others. And so as we've gathered those resources and those amazing connections with people, we decided we wanted to share. It's great for, for us to learn about it and for our audience, but there's even a bigger audience than what watches the show. There's all kinds of people on social media and and so we really wanted to create a space where there was an opportunity for people who have questions, maybe about their specific condition, to find those resources and find those connections, make those connections. So.
And speaking with somebody who's been there, I've got 47 years of experience of dealing with an invisible condition and and hunting for solutions. You know, the last 10 years have been really interesting. Having 4 brain surgeries and 2 other surgeries in the last 10 years, we have had to search. We have had to be our own best advocate. We have had to ask a lot of questions, bang down a lot of doors, you know, and so that between the last 10 years of our personal school of hard knocks and everybody else that's been on the show, which by the way, everybody, Sarah's been a guest and she was amazing. So go to Invisible Condition on E360 TV and find her episode because it is really good. So yeah, I mean, invisible conditions are everywhere, right? So yeah, so that's kind of how it happened.
I love this backstory to how it happened. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love also that you already had a nonprofit. So you guys were not new in terms of the business world or how to connect in with people. You already had established relationships. You already were doing things that were benefiting people, but were also something that was also benefiting for you guys as well financially. That's the whole point of doing business. Is to be serving other people, but also to be able to then be supporting your future. You're supporting your right now as well.
Yeah.
For people who are interested in the university, can you give a little bit more information, Catherine, about how they would reach out and what kind of information they could possibly get there?
Yeah. So what we suggest first we have a special gift. So if they go to myfreegiftfromjeff.com, there will be a landing page there with all kinds of good information about why we're doing what we're doing, what we're hoping to accomplish. And at that one, myfreegiftfromjeff.com, they will get their first 30 days their first 30 days of their membership free with us. So we do 2 calls a week.
2 calls a month.
Sorry. Thank you.
2 calls a week would be a lot. We'd be sitting here all the time.
I'm sorry, 2 calls a month. The first and third Tuesdays of the month. We meet at we have Zoom calls at 3:00 Mountain Time, and people are welcome to join. But if they can't join, then we also make the recordings available afterwards. But myfreegiftfromjeff.com, and you get a couple of those calls totally free on us.
Try me out. Try us out. Both of us are there, by the way, not just me, because it's about the patient, but it's also about the caregiver. It's also about the family. It's about anybody that's helping you. You know, if you are in a situation that you have a caregiver, that is another person that we want you to bring on the call. You know, because that person's going to be valuable resource for others. You know, that's the idea, is to collaborate with other people and learn. So
Jeff, are you then interviewing other people on these 2 calls per month for ICU, or are you bringing in experts? What kind of value are people getting out of this? Because I know that you are value driven.
Thank you. So right now we have not brought anybody on like from outside to talk about what you're talking about, like with the interview other people, but we definitely have plans for that, because like I said, there's such a huge pool of resources that we've come in contact with.
Yes.
I think we're just kind of getting our feet under us right now and making sure that we get everything, all the stuff that we want for the value to be able to get to the members of the community. And so we definitely have plans for that, though. Yeah. To have somebody, you want to learn about, chiropractic neurology, maybe that's a thing you want to try, okay, yeah, let me see if I can get a hold of my chiropractic neurologist that brought me back from the brink, and he can talk to you he can be available for that hour, or cranial sacral, or whatever.
Good sleep habits.
Good sleep habits.
We know
Whew.
a gal who's a sleep expert.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
sleep is healing for anybody. So,
and the cool thing is, all of these people have been guests on almost all of them, probably 99% of the people that we have in our resource pool of people that we want to share with you are people that have been on the show. So if you want more information about any of those, you just go check it out, which is really cool. And then you get to see them live and talk to them on the show, on the call as well.
So I know that E360 is the platform. E360 TV has its own app. It's the platform that Invisible Condition goes out on. Do you also happen to house it any other place? Can people find the shows other places as well, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are on the Achieve TV channel of on E360, and then we're also, when we do a show every Tuesday and Friday at 10 a.m., they broadcast out to Facebook and YouTube at the same time, and then of course, as soon as the show's over, it's immediately available on that Facebook page and YouTube channel to watch again or share, or
share.
So, yep, or share. Yeah.
So. Yes, for the growing community. Catherine, what have been some things that you have learned through this process? I know that, and feel free to share a little bit of the backstory for people who haven't listened, because I interviewed Jeff once before, and he talked about his childhood and the number of surgeries and living with hydrocephalus, and that you guys were high school sweethearts, maybe even earlier than that. So would love for you to share a little bit of your story of how you guys met, and because this was a known condition when you guys chose to marry.
It was known, but I didn't know very much about it. So we did actually meet in middle school. And as much as you can date in middle school and high school, we kind of dated off and on, but we really also within that time frame just built a real strong friendship. And so as we went a little bit of our separate ways after high school, I went to college. Jeff did a year of travel with a group called Up With People. Kind of went our separate ways, but we really still maintained that friendship. And then it was after a couple of years in college, after Jeff got back from traveling, we decided, you know what? Yep, we want to get married. It's this is the commitment we want to make. So we did. So we got married at 22. But to your point, Sarah, I did not know very much about Jeff's condition, if I'm being candid. I knew that he had a condition. I knew that it had required some surgeries in the past, but he seemed very healthy.
Right.
Right. A very strong, capable, healthy young man. And so I didn't really think about that. It didn't come into my thinking process as we were deciding to get married. So fast forward, we had about 14 years of marriage where it was just doing married stuff, finding jobs and buying houses and having kids. We have 3 beautiful children. And it was when we were about 36 years old that Jeff, that's kind of when things went a little bit crazy with his health. He needed an emergency abdominal surgery one fall. 6 months later, he was back in the hospital again, requiring a couple brain surgeries. And then after that, I think it was about 3 years before another surgery. And so as more and more surgeries started happening, it was a challenge. Especially that first one where it was a total surprise. We were like, he's not doing well. He's clearly got to go to the hospital. And then it's like, okay, he needs emergency surgery, the very next morning. And so I found myself sitting in a hospital waiting room at the time I was texting friends going, Jeff's having surgery. I don't even, it was kind of surreal how to, trying to grasp what was kind of happening. And there was one particular, two friends that reached back out and said, what can I do? What can I bring you, if anything? And the other one said, I'm coming.
I'm on my way.
And she still is an amazing, beautiful friend to us. And so she came and she sat with me in that waiting room. And that was, I guess, the start of, really saying, wow, I need a community around me. I need a community to support me through the hard times of, being in the hospital and watching my loved one go through, surgery. And then even after surgery, after getting out of the hospital, there are still very challenging moments because, in Jeff's case, he requires brain surgery every once in a while. We mentioned he's had 7 brain surgeries. And so when you start poking around in the brain, cutting things, it really makes an impact on how the body functions. So I went from watching, my strong, capable husband shift into really serious health challenges with migraine headaches, with he had after the surgery in 2021, he had large muscle spasms that were debilitating. So yeah, there's been a lot of challenges, but that community, seeking out that community to was very important. And I found that in the beginning, I had some friends, but if I had had an online community, that I could really go to and say, hey, guess what the doctor said, or guess what we're dealing with, or
has anybody else had this happen?
Right.
Right.
That I just have come to realize that would have been so valuable. So that's, really part of the reason of, what's driven this community is to create that safe space for people to bring their challenges, bring their hard times, and say, oh my gosh, either, for someone who's diagnosed with something to say, oh my gosh, this is what I'm going through, or for a caregiver to say, oh my gosh, this is what my loved one is going through. This is what doctors are saying.
Well, and just because I'm the one that's in the hospital doesn't mean she's not going through it. So that's the other thing, is that the resources for the caregiver is huge, because that's the population that gets forgotten a lot. That's the one that, because the focus is always on, oh, how's the patient doing, And so it's that is the huge thing, is the caregivers. We want the caregivers to come too, because they need that reprieve from their the craziness sometimes.
Yeah.
We're going to take a very, very brief break here for a commercial, and we'll be right back and have more conversation with Jeff and Catherine. I am so glad that you are here, that you are listening and taking this. I'm excited about ICU. I'm also excited about what's taking place with Glass Arts Collective. Glass Arts Collective is doing something so fun and amazing. Believing that all of us are creative, they are opening up their Instagram page for people who are creating things to be able to post those things there. I also believe that you are creative, and I'm super excited about this opportunity to be supporting Glass Arts Collective. They are amazing. This conversation with Jeff and Catherine is one that I've been looking forward to. If you have been a longtime follower of Simply Sarah, you know that I have one guest at a time. Most of the time, and to have 2 people in studio talking about the 2 different sides of an invisible condition, and yet both sides being so deeply important. The person who's going through it and the person who is the caregiver for the person who's going through it. I love that you guys are creating this space for people to come in and be able to share, not just for the person who's going through the item or through the surgeries, but also for the person who's the caregiver. I know that I married somebody also with a very known condition, and we did 2 major surgeries within 6 months of each other in 2017. And after the first one, I thought, okay, I've got this. I can see how we're going to, move things forward and stuff. And after the second one, he wanted to go out to the desert. And I said, your blood is super, super thin. And I understood that he wanted to be out there to just be in the sunshine and to heal. I got that. But for me, that drive out there, I said, if there is a truck that pulls in front of us, if there's something that happens, I'm not sure that we can get you to a place that you'll be okay. And he said, I still really want to go out there. And so that space of being a caregiver, of wanting to meet the needs of the person and help them heal as quickly and as fast as possible, but also being the one who's thinking for both or thinking for everybody in the family, what's the right, best next decision. And so it's the most careful drive I have ever done for those 2 hours to get us up to the desert. But, just him sitting and having his feet in the sun at different points and was just something that was so important for him. But also that sunshine, how that morning sun, right? And what it does for our full being and just how it encourages us to feel in such an amazing way. So, Jeff, I can sense that you want to share something more. Go ahead, friend.
Oh no, I'm just listening, man. I'm soaking it up. That's good stuff. I don't remember if I heard that story about your husband. So that's cool.
So, Jeff, for you, what have been some of the important pieces preparing? It's a different thing when you have a day or two or a week of preparing for this surgery. Different than, this is happening today. This is, we're in it right now. But what have been some of the pieces that you now know that if you need to go in for another, replacement of for the hydrocephalus, are there things, do you have your list? I know that when I was living in earthquake country, well, this goes back even further than that. We lived overseas for years, and there would be these political upheavals. And so inside in the kitchen, there was always a list of everything that we needed to take if we were leaving the house and weren't sure we were coming back or if we were even going to be in the country in 24 hours. And so that became very, very easy then when I lived in a place that had earthquakes and large fires to then again have the go list, right? All the things that these are the important things. If you can take these, it'll make your life easier afterwards. These are important things to do. So how about for you going into surgery, you know that you have a day or so, what are the important things that you have discovered, the list that you have that you're willing to share of things that are important for you to do as you go into surgery?
Okay, so I've only ever had one brain surgery that wasn't a knockdown, drag out emergency that so 1 out of the 7 was one that I could just plan. I planned it 3 months in advance and that kind of thing. So, but for the ones for that one, I'm trying to remember what we even did, but we don't have like a go bag or anything like that because it's not it's not usually that
Right.
but urgent. But I think the main thing is, I mean, you're going to be in the hospital, so it's not like you're going to need a whole bunch of clothes because they don't let you wear them anyway. So you're in that very attractive gown they give you.
Yes.
So we don't have to pack a lot of that. But what were you going to say?
I was actually thinking, I think sometimes what's important to think about is actually what not to bring.
Well, that's true. Right?
Like there have been some things that he has taken, some personal items that he's taken to the hospital and tried to have some comforting things with him.
Right.
And it got swept up with the cleaning crew and I never saw it again. So yeah.
That's weird.
So
I know.
Yeah, so
not cool.
It's actually a little bit of, actually like be careful not to take, some of those highly valuable personal items. But what else were you thinking?
No, that's okay. No, and you're right. You're absolutely right. That item that you're talking about was not expensive, but it was very valuable to me. Yeah, I got up to use the bathroom, and the cleaning crew came in, and it was a blanket that a friend of the family that had sewn for me when I was a baby in the hospital, and it was just comforting. So we got to the hospital, and that got swept up in with all the sheets and stuff, and gone forever. So we never saw it again. So yeah, you do need to be careful. Don't bring anything that's sentimental or super valuable, because you never know. You never know what's going to happen. But as far as what to bring, I mean, if you're going into the hospital and you're going to be there for a few days, I mean, we're in a smartphone world, right? So make sure you got a charger, make sure you got your earbuds and your different stuff that if you want to, listen to stuff, if you have books, if you read. I don't work as good as they do because of surgeries, actually. So I listen to a lot of stuff instead of reading it. So I don't really bring a lot of books, but make sure you've got that, maybe, or journaling. If you're a journaler, bring that along, because that's going to be valuable. You're going to want that, maybe looking 10 years down the road, go, oh man, remember that? That's great. Things like that. I mean, you don't really need a lot. You don't really need to bring a ton of stuff. But really it's what's important. What would you bring if you were going somewhere and you didn't know when you were coming back? I mean, I've had hospital visits that have been 3 weeks. I've had a hospital visit. This last one was so fast. Brain surgery and home within 24 hours. So you never know, right? Yeah. I didn't know. I thought I'd be in there for a couple more days to hang out and recover and make sure everything's cool. She's like, nope, you're out. See you later. So sometimes you never, that's the other thing. You just never know how long you're going to be in there. So having it close to home is valuable as well. In 2014, I went to Denver, and I'm in Colorado Springs, which is about an hour away. Right. And so to say, oh, I forgot this, can you bring it to me? Is a little more of a trek than 15 minutes down the road in town. So so that's that's something to consider too. And I had a lot of family and friends come visit me during that 3 weeks in Denver. But it's just harder. So yeah, when it's closer to home, it's easier to just, oh, I forgot this, and somebody can bring it for you. But really, you don't need that much, honestly.
It's so true. And Catherine, how about for you? Things that are important as a caregiver, things that you want to make sure that you have, or things that you go looking for if you get the call and you need to all of a sudden go and you don't have a chance to go home and get those things. What are some of the things that you find are helpful to have?
Probably some similar items. Something to do if you're going to be in a waiting room. Like Jeff said, if you, maybe earbuds to listen to podcasts, or books to read, maybe books on audio to read, have those downloaded, or movies.
There you go.
Have those downloaded to your phone. I also, it might seem a little trivial, but make sure you have your insurance card in your wallet.
Yes.
Yes. They want that.
That's, ID and insurance card, of course, are important. So there's, just make sure those are with you. Comfortable. I tend to get chilled. And so I bring jackets, and I don't think I've brought a blanket, but but definitely, make sure that you're comfortable with warm clothing and in an air conditioned or even just a cool space. So
pro tip, I got to throw this out there. By the way, anybody goes to the hospital that gets cold, and she does. She's always wrapped in a blanket. Seriously. She's always got a jacket or a blanket or something. And some people are just, that's just how it works. In the hospital, they have heated blankets. They have heated. They have a giant. I was going to say cooler, but you know what I'm saying. Not a cooler, a heater, a giant cabinet, a heated cabinet, and they've just got dozens and dozens and dozens of these heated blankets, and they're always asking me, like, "Hey, how you doing? You warm enough? You want another heated blanket?" And I always say, "Yeah, absolutely," because it feels really good. But maybe one for her. Let's throw one on her too. She probably could use one too. So, hey, you're in the hospital anyway. You may as well use the resources you've got at your disposal for everybody that's there. So
I think for me, something that's important that I go looking for or ask somebody to bring is something to cover my eyes, because I'm very light sensitive.
Ooh.
And at night, I like to sleep where it's totally dark. And if not, then I want to have something that covers my eyes to help me with that. Because as you were saying earlier, Catherine, how important sleep is for our healing. And even when we're in the hospital and they're checking on us all through the night and that kind of thing, how important that is. And then I think something else is one of the things I'm very aware of when I walk into a hospital is how bright the lights are, but also the smells that are there. They use things on purpose to clean up, to keep everything clean. I totally get it.
Yeah.
But that's not how my home smells. It's not how the lights are in my space. And so I love to have just baggy clothes that have been brought from home. And then, I love to smell them before I put them on, just to kind of remind myself I'm here for a period of time, but not forever.
Yeah.
I really appreciated what you were sharing about bringing in things to listen to, things to keep yourself occupied. I would also, for me, pen and paper. It doesn't need to be anything expensive at all. But if I've had stuff down my throat for a while through surgery and my throat doesn't feel very good, just being able to write things out, or to be able to, when the doctor comes in to say things, to be able to, or just to know what time it was when the doctor came in, and bring this in 4 hours, so I can just keep that. Because if I've been under anesthesia, I'm not really tracking time like I typically would, and just having something that I can write down can be helpful for me. And the other thing is that I'm exceedingly fortunate that I have a sister who's a doctor, and that my husband also spent time training that direction as well. That's not how my brain works. And so each time that I've had a diagnosis or gone into the hospital, both of them have been there, and I've been very, very careful to make sure to tell both of them, you need to listen to what the doctor's saying, because I'm going to hear maybe 5% of it. And for you to be the ones who are really taking notice and taking notes, because I will be asking questions. And it's just helpful to have people who live in that language, to be able to answer different kinds of things later on, because I process things differently as well. So those are just a couple pieces that I add to our conversation. Go ahead, Catherine.
I'll throw one other thing out there, especially if you're not the one in surgery, if you're there as a guest, you might bring a travel pillow if you can.
Hey.
Because the person in the hospital bed gets all kinds of pillows, but if you're sitting in a recliner or a bench, or the hospitals don't have usually fabulous accommodations for guests.
On purpose. Yeah.
Right.
On purpose. Yeah.
Right.
Visiting time is over. Get out.
Yes.
Yeah.
But a little travel pillow can go a long way.
That can go a really long way. And I think the other observation that I've had more recently is that pretty much gone are the days of getting to have your own room. Almost always. When I've gone with my husband for surgeries, and there can be spaces and times where you get your own space, but for the most time that there's some kind of a sheet curtain, for lack of a better way of saying it, that kind of gives that room divider. But almost always that there is, somebody else who may also have family, who may also be, working through how they're feeling and what's taking place for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
thankfully, we have had, I don't know if it's because it was neurosurgery or if it was just because God knew that it would be better that I had my own room most of the time. I don't know.
You've shared sometimes.
We've shared.
Mm-hmm.
I distinctly remember one of them. Yeah.
Mm.
It was, yeah, that was fun. But for the most part, I have had my own room. I think that might be a neuro. That's especially if you're in there for an extended period of time.
Right.
They want you to have your own room. But yeah, it's sharing can be exciting.
It can be memorable for sure.
Woo! Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
And that space also of knowing that your loved one, if you are the caregiver, they're going to potentially be in multiple different spaces. And each of those spaces has a different level of care. And so you go from the space where you get the most one-on-one to spaces where you get less and less of that until they discharge. And oftentimes when they say you're free to leave the hospital now, there's often a long list of things that, either dietary kinds of things or weight restrictions of what you can and can't do. And that the caregiver then also needs to be aware of that. So yes. And so, Catherine, how have you noticed that has impacted your businesses when all of a sudden you guys are in the hospital? Because bills have to be paid. There are commitments that you've made. How have you balanced those pieces out, friend?
Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, I've had a full-time job the whole time that we've been married. So it has been an interesting balance. And, at least one piece of that is working with your employer, right?
Yes.
To say, I have a loved one, my spouse, my husband, is having a medical emergency. And I will, just communicate with them, though, right? I will be gone. I will need to flex my time. I've been very fortunate with my job that I do have kind of what's called flex time. So, I could work very early in the morning, or I could work very, later, in the evening, at night, to be able to accommodate, going to the hospital or going to appointments. And, I've found, at least for me, when I just communicate with my employer and say, hey, this is happening, they're usually very gracious about it. Now, if I were to just leave, right, that'd be a problem. But
Right.
I don't like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do say something. So that's on the employer side. But to the business side, we have we've been able to structure the business so that things that need to get done are usually done ahead of time. So for example, his TV shows, they're recorded ahead of time. And so there, when there has been a time when he's gone to the hospital, we've been able to say, well, we can't record today. So we'll push out, maybe recording, but there are still enough recorded where, those can get scheduled and we're
Just
still
rearrange
fine.
a little bit.
Yeah. So, flexibility, I think flexibility is king to, to be able to say, well, I thought I was going to do this today, but actually we'll need to be in the hospital or, at a doctor's appointment, and it'll get done tomorrow. And we're okay with that.
Well, and even with not even just hospital stuff, but it carries home. I mean, just because you're not in the hospital doesn't mean that there's not things that pop up that you go, oh, this needs some attention, So, things like post those surgeries in 2013 and 14, especially, there were times that I really needed a lot of care and attention after we got home. And so that was also something that was very fortunate and very fortunate for who I worked for at the time. I was with an amazing company, an incredible owner of that company that worked with me. And I was with him for 12 years through all of those brain surgeries, all of those. And he kept me around, and he was above and beyond. So, so that is important. If is to have somebody that you work with that that is flexible. It's such a blessing when that's the case. So yeah, because it's not just the surgery, it's everything after.
Beyond.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
we talked a little bit earlier about what business was created for. And my personal belief is that business is created in order to empower other people, to serve other people. But in that process, also that we get benefits from that as well. That it's not just about creating a powerhouse and having a bank account that you're just swirling in as much as you can all the time, right? In my opinion, there is this space of caring for the people that we employ, the people that we are inviting to partner along with us, that there is a space for them to also have their life be expanded or blessed as a result of the goodness. And so I really appreciate that you worked for somebody who had, it sounds like, a very similar philosophy.
Oh man,
what business is about.
Total servant heart, man. That's that guy. His name's Eric. He is, yeah. If I was an independent contractor with him for 12 years, and if I ever I had to leave that company in 2023 because of some of the side effects that I had that Catherine talked about from that last surgery, but I just couldn't do it anymore in the capacity that I was in for him. But if I ever desire to do anything like that again, he's the only one I'll work for, and that's why, because he was so accommodating and so understanding, and yeah, it's true. It's true.
And you were also coming and giving your best. You were showing up to work. You were doing the things he needed for you to do. It's not about, you weren't taking advantage of any space at all. And so that's that reciprocity of being able to have all of these things, because this is what life is. I have a calendar. Okay. Mom gave me a calendar for the next 2 years. So I don't just have a calendar. I've got calendars.
Seriously.
And as I began to think about that, as I was circling dates, these are birthdays and these are, family things.
Yeah.
I was just thinking how interesting it is that I am looking that far ahead and just kind of thinking, which is totally fine. I'm not locking in anything because life is so fluid, and coming to that space of having, you talked a little bit about having flex hours with your work, Catherine. I think that there's this beautiful concept also of looking at our days and being able to chunk things out. And this is the most important thing that has to get done today, and then have things kind of prioritize. And when we are able to do that just in regular life, that when all of life shows up for us, we are still connected to those things that must get done every single day. And if we start looking at that list usually is a pretty short list compared to the things that I fill my days with. I don't have to garden. I love to garden. I don't have to garden, right? And so, but there are things like this morning, I was making sure that bills were paid. Those are important things to make sure that I have that, checked off, and I have a system that goes along with that as well. And so maybe part of the conversation is about systems and those kinds of things. So let's change the conversation, if you guys are willing, to talk a little bit about your beautiful 3 children. How have you walked this life with them? Because they're in school, they're in sports, music, they are doing their life, and now you have this taking place. So Jeff, I'll let you start, and then Catherine will have you share your thoughts as well.
Our kids are awesome. I'm sorry, I just have to say that first and foremost, they're amazing. And we are, so our oldest daughter, Elizabeth, is 21. She just turned 21 yesterday. Okay. That was yesterday, right? September 30th. Yeah. She just turned 21 yesterday. And our son, Nick, is a senior. He's 17. And our youngest daughter, Kasha, is 15. She's a sophomore. And so it's really cool because in the space of what we've gone through over the last 10 years with all these surgeries, they have been, it's so cool. The youngest, Kasha, has been, it's almost brings tears to my eyes. She will see me, in in the last couple of years, there's been times where I've been just on the floor. My head just takes me out, and it's just, I'm on the floor. I'm having a, like maybe I'm either having a seizure or something close to it, or something feels like it, and I can't move. I can't do anything. She is so perceptive. She'll come over and be like, "Dad, you okay?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm good. I just need to stay here for a little bit. I don't care if it's the kitchen floor, the living room floor, wherever I land, and she'll just bring over a pillow, you know, and just that little thing, like, okay, you just chill. We got this. We got dinner. We got whatever." And so, that kind of thing is hugely valuable, to have the whole family involved, to have kids that get it, that are like, he's not out. He's just down. He's just down for a few, and he'll be back. He'll bounce back, and then he'll be his normal crazy self. But for right now, he needs a little extra. So, and the one that knows that the most is Elizabeth, being the oldest. She was she was a little bit older while we were going through all the craziness of all those first couple surgeries. And so I actually had the privilege of having Catherine and Elizabeth come on our show and talk about that, and say, I couldn't even be. I said, Catherine and I were on the first segment and talking about it a little bit, and then I left the room. I didn't want to. I was going to be a mess if I had to listen to Elizabeth talk about it. So Catherine and Elizabeth were in the second segment talking about it, and then I came back for the last one. But what a cool perspective to learn from your oldest daughter about what she went through while you were doing all this, and the perspective of the kids. So it was pretty cool. Our kids are pretty awesome. So
Yes, they are beautiful. To Jeff's point, we did get to hear more of Elizabeth's perspective, and what she remembers from those first surgeries. So in 2013, she was about 10. The other kiddos were younger, though. They were 6 and 4, I think.
Something like that.
Doing math in
I
my
don't
head.
remember as much, but yeah.
Yeah, so they don't remember as much of those early surgeries that were a little bit scarier. But I think that parents should try to explain to their kids as much as they can without freaking them out, without not trying to scare kids, or make them super worried or anxious, but to say, here's what's happening with Dad. He has this condition. It is requiring surgeries, and we're just going to have faith and pray that that he'll be well, and he's going to continue to get better. It was, in a practical sense, it was tricky, going to hospitals, going to doctor's appointments, and, like you said, getting kiddos to school and back, and getting them to practices and back. And it just takes planning. It was not very far into that where I was like, we have got to have a calendar. We need to have a family calendar that has, where everybody is, or where everybody needs to be within the week. And if it wasn't on that calendar, it was not happening. And so, a couple times it's like, hey, Mom, I need to go here. And I'm like, well, it wasn't on the calendar, so
you're on your own, kid.
I will do my best.
Yeah.
But yeah, that family calendar that had everybody on it was super important. And then yeah, just explaining to the kids, here's what's happening. Here's what we're dealing with, and so that they're not, because kids can see, they know that something is going on.
Be honest with them.
Yeah, so I really encourage honesty and openness as much as possible with kiddos. Age appropriate. right? If you have really super little kids,
don't have to tell them much.
Right.
It can be simple,
right.
but
Daddy's not feeling well.
yeah.
But yeah, they know, and they can perceive reality sometimes even better than we explain it.
Yes.
Yep.
So true. They can be so perceptive.
Yeah.
And some kids are able to read the energy. And so whether or not you say a whole lot, they can feel the concern or apprehension and just be so aware of that.
For sure.
It's true.
Well, let's bring our conversation back to where we began in terms of ICU, this beautiful this community that you guys are creating. What is it that you are wanting people to actually be able to get from coming in and being part of this community? We've talked a lot about a whole bunch of different things. So these pieces of communication, the importance of community, having an online space, having people that you can lean into who are in person as well. I sense that what you guys are building is something really, really remarkable, and would love for you, Jeff, to take the first conversation at that, and then you, Catherine.
Sure. Appreciate it. Thank you. So, I mean, in a nutshell, Invisible Condition University is something we wish we would have had 10 years ago. I mean, honestly, that's the big picture thing is, I can't imagine how much easier things would have been with a community, So, I think it's valuable for people to be able to be in an environment, which is the environment that we try to create at ICU, is that environment that full of people that listen, that actually care what you're going through, the caregiver, the patient, everybody involved walks with you, with whatever the process is, whatever the problem is. It's ask questions, vent, get mad, fine, whatever, do what you got to do. Sometimes it's frustrating. It's all confidential. We record the calls and we keep them in a very secure spot, just in case somebody misses a call, they can go back and listen to one. But yeah, it's a place people can just come and get information that they feel like they've been lacking, and relate to people that have been there. I think that's the biggest thing. So
yeah. And so after Jeff's surgeries in 2014, he ended up experiencing migraine level headaches for the better part of a year. And we would go back to the surgeon and say, can you help us? Can you adjust things? What needs to happen to reduce these headaches and the migraines? And he said, well, sorry, guess you're going to have to live with headaches. And
that was his answer. Not great.
Jeff was a little more patient than I was, but I was
it's true.
I was not okay with that answer. And so it created a lot of frustration, a lot of irritation, a lot of anger, a lot of unease.
Yeah. What are we going to do now?
With the medical community. And so those emotions, to be able to bring those to a community that might understand, that might be hearing similar messages, to be able to say, and so the quick story of that is we have found resources that have helped with those symptoms and those things.
And we want to share.
And we want to share. So to be able to, like you said, vent frustrations, but to bring peace, to bring some reduction of those, emotions of anger and anxiety. To reduce those things. To within a community that really cares and really gets it, I think is really what we're hoping to bring to people.
Oh, I love that. Healing the full body, not just the physical body. That's so good. Jeff and Catherine, thank you so much for being gracious and sharing your wisdom, your ideas, this new adventure that you guys are creating. This is so powerful, and just so grateful for both of you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. And myfreegiftfromjeff.com. Come join us. It's going to be awesome. And the last, I mean, the one thing that I want to leave everybody with is life doesn't have to be perfect to be amazing. If you're going through something, it's okay. If it's messy, it's all right. That's life. So come join us and we'll talk about it.
It's beautiful. And to our audience, we are so grateful that you are here soaking all of this good information in. And if you know somebody who is going through something like this, to reach out. You don't need to be going through things alone. I'm so grateful that you are here. Have an incredible week, and until our next episode.